Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because...
And we seized a lot of things. We seized motorcycles. We wiped out and seized everything from the bait shop because we were able to funnel the money and see it follow back up to be laundered at the legitimate places. We seized guns. Ladies and gentlemen, I say this every time, and I'm going to say it once again, and you'll hear it the next time. People who want you to believe that drugs are low level and nonviolent are either mentally insane or they're flat out lying to you. We see two names in red here. This drug killed at least 2 people from fentanyl overdose. And then you have the guns. You know, Louis Vuitton. How many of you have a Louis Vuitton semi-automatic rifle? Hey, you ought to be trendy while you do this. But understand, these dope dealers want to do their drug deals in a very crowded parking lot. They're evil people. They don't care about you. They don't care whether you die or a 3-year-old dies. They don't care whether there's a shootout. Do you think these shootouts in the streets that you're seeing over in Tampa right now are because the chess game went bad last weekend? No. It's a drug deal gone bad. Are gangsters fighting for territory for drug deals? And until we turn the heat up on the rule makers across this nation that, hey, we're tired of it. We're tired of the shootings. Now, do you see them running and gunning every night in Polk County? No, because we're on their butt every night in Polk County. But you see it all across the nation, and you see innocent people dying. And it's all about this and this and territories. That's what it's about. It's a wide open faucet now. We can ramp it down to a drip. I'm not naive enough to tell you we can stop it all, but we could bring it down to a drip. But that gets into other policy, federal policy. What's the president doing? You know, this political office, that political office, but the bottom line is, the criminals are pushing illegal immigrants across here, and these illegal immigrants want to come here to do better for their family. So while all the officials are tied up with the infrastructure and dealing with these folks, then they're flooding victims of human trafficking and drugs and guns across the border here. The cartels are manufacturing floods the people to tie up the resources, why they flood dope across this country to poison us in the United States. So the cartels are taking advantage of the horrible border policy, and the federal government gets an F.
The ties or connections to another country.
Right. Well, obviously, here's this drug supply, but we know that the fentanyl's coming out of Mexico. As we've discussed in our other investigations, it's coming out of Mexico. Sinaloa is where a lot of it's coming from, and it's coming into California. It's being distributed. I had an ABC Los Angeles reporter here 2 or 3 weeks ago talking with me because they're distributing it all over the nation through LAX. And in addition to that, if you watch that 3 series or look it up, nobody's policing for it at LAX. No one. At the end of the day, that's where it's coming from. We, on one of the previous operations, safe operations that we worked with our colleagues from FDLE, we tracked it to a safe house and couldn't get the Los Angeles Sheriff's Office to knock on the door with us to serve a first-degree felony Florida warrant because they don't knock on doors because it's dangerous. Well, that's why it's dangerous, because you're not putting anybody's butt in jail. It's not dangerous here because we arrest people and take guns away from criminals that don't have any business with guns. But that's not happened in Los Angeles. So the flood of drugs here is being enabled by the crazy policies in California, and it's flooding across our porous border. It's a train wreck every day. And yet we watch government officials elected at the national level, the federal level, and the state level do nothing while your relatives die in the United States because of their lack of interest. That's not happening here. We care about your relatives and your children, and we're going to do everything we can to keep them safe.
LAX is 3,500 acres of planes and people and luggage and cargo, and in the midst of all of that is a danger that will shock you, a loophole that has been exploited for years. And even more shocking, the lack of effort to fix it. Here's our investigation.
LAX, 80 million people travel through here every year. Add to that another 50,000 credentialed workers per day, and you have an enormous, complicated ecosystem. And amidst all this energy is a massive problem that has been building for years, and nobody is talking about it.
Listen to me, folks.
Except for a sheriff 2,000 miles away. As a herd of cattle bask in the sun just outside of his office, longtime Polk County, Florida Sheriff Grady Judd delivers a sobering message to big city LA.
Over and over and over on these domestic airlines from LAX, through suitcases, drugs was smuggled here. That's right, look at this.
Through good police work, Sheriff Judd cracks an enormous drug ring and, in his own special way, illustrates the problem.
On one occasion, on one airline, 6 suitcases with this drug was smuggled into Orlando. They didn't so much as throw a pair of underwear in the suitcase to act like they were hiding the drugs. You think LAX has got a drug smuggling problem?
This investigation began 4 years ago, and little has changed.
What did you learn from this bust?
It's so easy not to be caught. We see drugs pouring out of LAX. The traffickers know this. This was not a one-off event. This was a everyday event during the operation. They use this multi-billion dollar travel industry as their go-to to move drugs across this country. We would have to be naive not to think that there's other major smuggling operations going on just like this. And we're one county sheriff doing one investigation. Extrapolate that over the United States.
And we did. Sheriff Judd is right. Our investigation has uncovered drug cases across the U.S. and the globe, all originating out of LAX.
Welcome back to Sunrise. The AFP arrested 3 women who had flown in from Los Angeles, each with them accused of hiding around 10 kilograms of the drug in clothing in their luggage.
According to multiple law enforcement sources, LAX likely is the drug trafficking hub of the world. So this isn't Los Angeles' problem. It's everyone's, including Polk County, Florida. But who's responsible for stopping it?
Is TSA really the only entity that's capable of doing the policing?
No, it has to be everyone. TSA has got a monumental task in front of them. They screen thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people, and do a really, really good job. But TSA can't do it all.
Our search authority is very, very narrow. We search for weapons, incendiaries, and explosives, and we want to keep those out of bags and off of planes.
Jason Pantages is the head of the TSA at LAX.
So how does searching for drugs play into the TSA?
So we don't search for narcotics. As I said, we search for weapons, incendiaries, and explosives.
Pantages says LAX is the busiest origination and destination airport in the world. They deal with hundreds of thousands of bags and people a day. He says searching for drugs cannot be part of their job.
We don't have the ability to do that because we're not law enforcement officials. We're transportation security officers. We can't search for criminal activity. It's not within what we're able to do with our search authority.
Understand that most bags are examined by TSA, but it may not be what you think. There's this screening process we all walk through to get on a plane. Through x-rays, the TSA looks inside our carry-ons. And then there's the bags we check in.
Those bags go through what we call an explosives detection system or an EDS machine. It's not like an x-ray machine at a checkpoint where an officer's looking at each individual bag.
In other words, there's no human looking inside. If the EDS machine doesn't detect explosives, the bag keeps moving. But there are occasions where the TSA does find drugs.
The first thing we would do is notify law enforcement.
That law enforcement is LAX PD.
Any crimes that are committed on the property, we investigate those crimes. We also, make sure the airport is secure.
LAX PD Chief Cecil Rambo has a long list of responsibilities, from checkpoints to theft to assaults to parking violations, and of course, illegally trafficked drugs. But looking into the hundreds of thousands of bags per day is not their job.
Are bags your responsibility?
No, bags are TSA.
So I have a team of agents who are assigned to LAX.
Matthew Allen is the special agent in charge of the DEA LA. His agents play a significant role in cracking down on drug smugglers at the airport.
And a lot of what they do is investigative, right? A lot of what they do is try to stop the narcotics before they ever actually even make it to LAX.
So part of the dilemma is if they're not going to look at the bags and when it comes to drugs, then who should be doing this?
We all have our roles to play, right? Screening is not the role of DEA.
As a general rule, if there's a call out for drugs at the airport, my team would not respond. We respond to very specific types of drug incidents at the airport.
David Gates is with the FBI. When it comes to drugs at LAX, they respond to only 2 kinds of crimes. When airport employees try to use their credentials to sneak drugs past checkpoints, or if illegal drugs are found on the cabin of a plane, but only if the doors to the cabin have been shut. If they are open, that's LAX PD.
It's complicated. It's complicated because this airport is so complicated.
You see the problem? Everyone is doing their job and doing it well. But it seems no entity is actually responsible for searching all those bags for drugs. Even the dogs at the airport, the majority are searching for explosives, not drugs. The cartels figured all this out years ago. And that's why we no longer see little Cessnas delivering drugs to secret airstrips.
We've not seen an airplane, a small airplane, fly into a clandestine strip in decades. The infrastructure's already in place. The drug dealers don't have to create the infrastructure. It's here.
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles and the area around it is the #1 hub for drug activity in the country. Mexican cartels use the Los Angeles area to get drugs into the country and then distribute it throughout the country and also internationally.
U.S. Attorney Martin Estrada grew up in L.A. and is now a key part of the fight against these ruthless dealers that are now on our streets. The more drugs the cartels pour into the city, the more money they make, the more powerful they become.
Why LA?
In part because of these long-established drug trafficking networks, Mexican cartels have trusted lieutenants and individuals in the Los Angeles area that help bring the drugs into it and then broker deals to other parts of the country. There's a ton of drugs that get sold in the LA area.
While some of those drugs are distributed on our streets, huge quantities are shipped to global markets. It is big business. Distribution is everything, and LAX is just one cog in the system. Southern California has become the cartel's unwilling partner.
I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country.